3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome to the show, episode number 2, Wednesday, April 26th of 2017.
Welcome to BM Sessions.
Yeah, BM Sessions. Good to be here on number 2. We're kind of still obviously getting super used to this. We kind of maybe weren't totally prepared going into the last podcast.
Blew a few tires.
It's all good. We're just two guys discussing what's going on in the world, so we don't expect to necessarily always be perfect. We'll correct our errors in
as best we can. Anyways, we're not trained journalists. We're people that are just excited about what's going on in the world and how easy it is to talk about all of this and to just get the message out. So really, we're going to bumble along and hopefully fix our mistakes as we make them, and give us any feedback. If you feel we're screwing up, then yeah, we want to hear about it. We're trying out a new camera today as well. This is something that we'll be using out in the streets, especially since the video didn't complete on the first.
Yeah,
podcast.
the last camera was that was my bad. I thought it would. I don't really do video. I do some still photography with it's just kind of something I do, but had never done video, so I didn't realize it would time out after 10 minutes there.
Well, about 12 actually.
Yeah.
Turn myself up way too much.
I think we're just we're adjusting levels too.
It's fun.
We'll have to also maybe, I was thinking for future podcasts, if we want to bring up a video or something, have some way of either displaying it on the screen.
We can edit it in.
Yeah.
We could have something in the background here, potentially.
And then just kind of have we will, as we've talked about, eventually get something.
I hope we get a Chaos Media flag.
That would be cool.
I'm big on that logo that we rock, the 8-sided chaos symbol.
Mm-hmm.
We got the yin and yang on the inside,
mm-hmm.
and then we color-coded it appropriately, right? We got the rainbow representation,
Mm-hmm.
We want to be inclusive around here.
Yeah.
We got no problem with any of the rainbow community.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's what we're kind of trying to touch on our last 40-minute bumbling introduction there. Or at least for me, anyways, we're both.
Oh, man, I hit that really rough patch at the end. Come on. There was some bad spots, no doubt.
Yeah. But for me, a big part of what's happening right now in the world, and my views on obviously what I'm writing in my book, Revolution in the Information Age, just there are...
Plug it.
Yeah. Free speech is paramount to just
everything,
yeah.
Moving forward.
And freedom of humanity from enslavement of an oligarchy. So we need free speech, and you need to, the way to go about confronting issues, I believe, is to debate them, not to suppress one person's side of the argument.
No kidding. When has that ever been a good idea?
Yeah. So that for me is where I want that to be a backbone of the show, but we're also, again, really compassionate individuals. I want people to know that my background, a lot of it's like spirituality, and I very much I'm very much a spiritual, compassionate person, but I want to I want to live in a world where we can discuss all these issues, where you don't get your valid opinion suppressed. I mean,
well, without free speech, we lose comedy.
Yeah.
Right. At the same time, comedy dies as soon as we say, "Well, you can't say that. That's offensive."
Mm-hmm.
That's not cool. Comedy, I was saying that humor is one of the greatest medicines, right? It's how we deal with tough ideas and how we express opinions about them, I really feel like it's the sort of thing that is easily rectifiable. We can figure out this free speech thing, and we're going to do it here. Speaking of screwing things up and fixing mistakes, though, we blew a tire on the French election. on our first episode. I think we want to rectify that as quickly as possible. Personally, I can tell you that I was looking at speculation on who was going to win, and that's why I thought it had already happened when it hadn't. It was the next day. They actually had the first round of the election that Macron and Le Pen are now facing off in the second election for, and Fillon was the establishment guy that I thought was... I didn't know at the time that Macron was actually establishment guy. He left his party to be an independent, but he still essentially has the ideals of that party.
Yeah, you've probably done a bit more research on this than I have in that time. But you know, since doing that podcast, obviously they had the first round of voting. They eliminated those. I think it was 11 down to 2, Macron and Le Pen.
Yep.
So yeah, it's again, it's France. I'm interested in it, but we're Canadians. I don't have the.
Well, we're kind of French.
Yeah.
Comment ça va?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't have the time to fully investigate into it, but it is very interesting what's going on there. So
they had the riots afterwards as well. People were pissed. Some people were like, well, we've got Macron, he's been a Rothschild banker, so like that's that doesn't inspire any confidence, man. Like anyone that's hip knows that that's a bad thing. And then Le Pen is obviously painted as a hateful person, and so they hate their decisions. So people were just in the streets, pissed. And I think Antifa Europe was had their own presence there. I saw a lot of coverage of people in the streets dealing with the cops. The cops are like trying to push people away from this monument area where they were gathering, and it looked like it was a little bit violent, but I haven't really seen or read too much on it since. It seemed like some people were wearing black, which is everyone calls that Antifa right away as soon as you're covering your face and everything. But
yeah, there's so much violence in France. I mean, they've been in the state of emergency since
over a year.
Yeah, over a year.
Year and a half almost, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was in 2015 about when the first Paris attacks. Yeah. Something around like that.
I can't remember the date.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy, all that's going on over there.
Well, France is one of our oldest, reigning monarchy sort of powers in the world, right? I mean, they were all on that colonialism thing, which is what gave you so much power during that period, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're classic in the history of European history. Like Napoleon was a thing, Charlemagne is a thing, they've had their spot in the days, and they're a massive ally of the States.
Mm-hmm.
They gave them the Statue of Liberty. They've been there so much for them, mostly to screw with the English, I think, but that's whatever. They've certainly been allies for a long time.
Yeah.
And so what happens there?
Well, yeah, they're huge players on the world stage. It's hilarious though. I've been reading recent headlines, and they're putting in the Russian hacking claim again for the for the French election.
Time.
Yeah, I mean how
the Russians did it all, ladies and gentlemen. They are the Hydra organization.
Mm-hmm.
They've infiltrated everywhere. They'll rather eat poison pills than be interrogated. Don't trust the Russians; they're evil.
It's fascinating. That's a whole other topic that we didn't necessarily plan on the show today. So
yeah, we skip that.
We'll get that that to another time. But it's
we'll
fascinating. I've been following that very closely since those allegations were made. Again, say what you want about Trump. That's fine, but it's quite concerning that you have this sort of shadow government that's propagating these rumors about Russian hacking that are pretty unfounded. So again, we'll get to that another episode, but I thought it was pretty hilarious that I see a headline now for the French election that the Russians are collaborating with the Le Pen camp. So
of course they are. They collaborated with the Trump camp. So of course they collaborated with The who's the Prime Minister of Britain?
Right now,
Yeah.
Theresa May.
Yes. So she's obviously inclusion as well. She's trying to do that Brexit thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's anti-European, it's you gotta blame those friggin' Russians.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Dumb stuff. But yeah, I didn't know up until the other day looking into Macron, because I didn't know anything about him until he won the most votes. He beat Le Pen by 2%, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was about 2%, 23 and 21% respectively.
Yeah, point something.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the points were, but I think it was roughly 2%. And yeah, then Fillon was only like 2% behind Le Pen, actually. And then I forget the guy in fourth, but he wasn't too far behind that. And then it dropped off like a rock.
There was only about
4%, I think, was the next highest.
Yeah.
And they had an amazing turnout, too. There was like 80% of voters turned out to vote.
So what do you think's going to happen in round two? We were talking a bit about this the other day. You think that a lot of these... because Macron was the main establishment candidate, I guess you said you feel that...
It's going to be the Hillary effect.
Right. Okay.
As far as I see it,
Yeah.
like Hillary lost by a slim margin because she is the corporate shill of them all.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, she's so dirty and in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, absolute corruption. She personifies it. Apparently this Macron guy does too.
Yeah,
that Rothschild banker. He worked for them. So very directly. And then the party he came from is a socialist party or something like that. I don't know. I forget what it was. But it was a far left thing.
Okay.
And that's why people call him a far left candidate, because he's an independent or whatever. But the party he comes from is very left leaning.
Yeah.
And it's one of the traditional parties in France, and none of those parties did overly well. They did terrible.
Yeah.
Actually.
No.
No support there.
Well, things are changing for sure.
Things haven't been working in France for a long time.
Yeah.
They're very corrupt in their politics.
Well, yeah.
There haven't been jobs in France for decades.
So you think the support will go to ultimately? You think Le Pen can win the second?
I totally think Le Pen's gonna take it.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Like, I see that possibility. I'm just, again, my knowledge of this is pretty minimal, but based on what I see mostly from mainstream media sources, the remaining candidates, I think we're saying, okay, vote for Macron. He's who we want.
For sure. He definitely said vote Macron.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're all the same party hacks, essentially, right? So that's actually going to hurt Macron, in my opinion. I mean, some of the old people or the people not tuned in, stuck in like their old traditions of voting.
Yeah.
They're just not thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
These people will probably take that advice, but I don't think that's the majority of people. I think people in France are pissed. They've been pissed for a long time. And when you get pissed, you get, dare I say it, woke.
Woke, yeah.
Woke as fuck. Yeah.
Nice.
That's a little bro-y of a term for me, but dare I say it. Yeah, so people they're awake to what's going on, I think. And at least Le Pen is trying to change something. Macron is going to be 5 more years of what they just had, which was... what pissed everybody off, right? So
that's the thing. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, how many people are really gonna subscribe to that 5 more years of the way France is going right now?
It didn't work in the States. We just saw that.
Yeah,
that didn't work in Britain. We saw that.
Yeah. Yeah, we will see. North Korea.
Ooh, North Korea.
Hot topic right now.
Hot to say the least. That's a pressure cooker situation. We got the Chinese on one border, you got the Russians on another border, and you've got the Phantom fleet in the in the sea.
Yeah.
From the Americans.
Yeah. The I think it's the Vinson, the U.S. Vinson aircraft fleet, and then
rumored to be in the area,
yeah,
but actually down in Indonesia or something. I don't know where it actually is.
Well, I think they're there now, but I believe they recently docked a submarine in South Korea, or it might have been Japan. I mean, they're doing all like
Who
the
docked
world.
a submarine?
The Americans
Oh,
docked
okay,
a
okay.
submarine. They're also setting up that, I think, a THAAD or something, some missile defense system on a golf course in South Korea. And they were like, all these South Koreans were like protesting because
They want to golf.
yeah, it's hilarious. Like everyone's just kind of gearing up for war, showing off their military muscle, making threats.
Well, I mean, don't you think Kim Jong-un is really screwed up lately?
Well, totally. I mean,
Really pushing the borders of what's allowed. And,
yeah,
you know,
he's
their
been making
buddy,
threats for years, and no one's really done anything. So now we have.
Well, I mean, that's because China's been in their court, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, now China's buying into the Western culture. You
Right.
know, the god of money has spoken, and he accepts China.
Mhm.
And so now they're totally on stage or on board with the world stage, and Korea's a friggin' problem. North Korea's a friggin' problem if you're on the world stage.
Yeah.
Like that's the part of chaos that I'm not so eager to embrace.
War.
Nuclear war.
Yeah.
Nuclear war. That's one of those
Yeah.
reasons I like that mother of all bombs being dropped, is because it wasn't nuclear.
Yeah. The North Korean, those big nukes that they carry along on those trucks that look like a big giant dick, they're called dongs. The dong missiles. I don't know.
Of course they are.
I know, it's hilarious.
Because you can't help but give them these really obnoxious, obvious names. Like for some reason, in male-centric circles, that's a thing for
No.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's clearly the military
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
As a construction worker, let me tell you, there are a lot of terms that are very sexually charged.
Very politically incorrect. You can't say those terms, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Someone needs a safe space.
Yeah.
Roll around with some puppies and blow some bubbles for a while.
So yeah, I
But-
mean, it seems like we're definitely in for a regime change in North Korea, at
Or at least
best. I mean,
that they might turn on a dime and change their ways in order to not be annihilated.
yeah, that's a possibility. I don't know if that will happen though.
Well, I mean, faced with the crushing armies of China and
Yeah.
Russia, and then the states and the seas,
well, they have no chance, no doubt about that. Just
they're a
depends.
bug waiting to be squashed. I mean, that's not an awesome thing to squash
Mhm.
a bug, in my opinion. I mean, it's the Gen religion, I think, that doesn't want to kill anything.
I'm not. Oh,
They would be
yeah,
very sad with me.
Jan. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
But they're literally not a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
They're not advanced technologically. Most of the country doesn't even have food, let alone
Yeah.
the internet.
Yeah, it's
Which
pretty sad.
I would consider the internet a basic right at this point.
Hmm. Well, again, it seems like they're in for, at very least, a regime change, and that could go numerous ways. I mean, it could Seoul is very close to the North Korean border, so if
It's right there,
yeah.
man. Like you can swim across the friggin' bay pretty much. If you're a
Yeah.
good swimmer.
so any if there is any conflict, that could be devastating for Seoul. Additionally,
Absolutely. There is that large no-go zone just covered in mines. Like that's a fair distance. I can't
Yeah.
remember exactly what it is, but you know.
I think Seoul is 30 kilometers from the border, or
No.
something about.
It's not the land troops that are going to be a factor because of the no-go zone. The problem is the mortars
Right.
that North
Totally.
Korea has in their arsenal. They up in the mountains where it's hard to get to or find. They're camouflaged in these different spots. Apparently, not all the sites are known, or potentially all the sites are not known. But like the mortars have excellent range, and they can shell the crap out of South Korea from especially Seoul. From their locations in the mountains. And I'm not sure what other targets are on that radar, but there's damage that they can do, and it doesn't necessarily need Pyongyang to be functional in order for them to carry out those attacks, right?
Right.
So that's a scary thing. That's the biggest scary thing. Unfortunately, all the StarCraft 2 training in the world doesn't save South Korea from from this problem here.
Yeah, and even if there is some sort of a peaceful regime change, you're probably going to see massive amounts of immigration to South Korea from the north. So they're going to be facing an immigration crisis as well.
That's part of the reason those armies are on the borders, right?
Yeah.
The Chinese and Russian armies are
Yeah.
there so that people don't run that way. People don't want undocumented people in the country, right?
Yeah. I mean, either
Pretty
way,
standard border thing.
yeah, either way, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It seems as though it's going to happen pretty soon, if anything does happen with the way things are going, all the military drills they're doing down
Trump
there.
wants a win.
Yeah, yeah.
That guy's all about winning.
Yeah.
I mean, we might as well have as elected, what's the 2.5 Men actor?
Charlie Sheen?
Charlie Sheen. We might as well have elected Charlie Sheen as far as he's concerned about winning, man. Like he's concerned about winning. If you haven't heard about
to be
that,
the kind of guy he is.
if you haven't heard about the things that Howard Stern says about Donald Trump, because they're apparently on good terms.
Oh, yeah.
Donald's been on his show a lot, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, my brother knows a lot about this. He's watched and listened to a lot of Howard Stern, but yeah, he told me that to check out some of the things Howard Stern has to say about Donald Trump, and Howard Stern's like, yeah, man, that guy just wants people to like him.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, he's a populist,
yeah,
right?
exactly. That's a very excellent way to describe him.
Yeah.
He wants people to like him, and he wants to, like, you know, be seen as successful. You know, that's obviously we all want to be seen as successful. Like, that's not uncommon, but it's like an obsession level thing,
Right.
apparently. You
Right.
know? So that's it. I don't know, man. Everyone's just some fragile, hurt, mental case, right? I mean, you know, it's about how you deal with it. And obviously he's got a strong bravado to deal with his ego problems. But I think a lot of people see through that.
Yeah. Well, he's coming up to 100 days here.
That's true.
So
This Friday,
people are,
isn't it?
I think it's, I believe it's on Friday. So
2 days.
people are definitely
98.
You know, making judgments as they should be. And it will be, it's interesting to see where he goes from here. How do you feel about Trump's 100 days so far?
I think everyone's pretty sure that they've been embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, the people he's trying to appoint are, let's say, problematic. You know, all the conflicts of interest that they all have. He's putting his family members in positions of power, and they're not being vetted at all. Like, he's just totally going around that thing. You know, the attack on Syria was pretty poorly planned. You know, people would argue poorly executed. His previous, the Yemen, the special forces team that moved in there, that was apparently, no one says good stuff about that unless you're Trump or crazy Trump supporters who will believe anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Trump. I think his first 100 days have been largely embarrassing. People wanted the revolution, and he's filling the swamp with more monsters.
Yeah, I suppose. Hey, I mean, I agree with you on on some of his appointments and his family members in tight ties with the White House. When, you know, it's not
Betsy DeVos, man. That's my argument. That's the end of the argument. Just research that corrupt. Unqualified. Go ahead.
He has, though, done a fair amount of what he's said he would do, like it or not. He's attempted, at least. He attempted, again, like it or not, his immigration ban twice. He attempted his healthcare reform.
I don't know how much of it was his, but yes, he tried reform.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We talked about that. I mean, he said potentially he would do. You mentioned single payer. All I heard was he said that he wanted. I think it was probably a tweet. He tweeted that no one will. There'll be healthcare for all. No one will have to pay or something, whatever that means. That's very vague.
Well, I mean, that's his game, right? He speaks in vague terms.
Yeah.
He flip-flops like a fish out of water, right? Like
Yeah,
most
absolutely.
politicians.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be a politician, but most politicians flip-flop like a fish.
Yeah, yeah. But some of his core stuff he has kept to. He's released his tax plan today. I
haven't
just
reviewed it, unfortunately.
I just caught the beginning of it before we went on air here, and there was again a lot of cuts, which is also what he promised to, like all throughout the board for.
Yeah, it's what his party wants, right?
Yeah, for the middle class and also corporate taxes. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but certainly
I hate it.
certainly for the middle class.
Not a lot,
Oh no, there was again. I just caught the tip of it,
but there
so
seems to be
there's
good stuff
definitely
in there for him,
some large middle class tax cuts
or exemptions, or
just cuts. I'm not
cuts.
sure.
Cuts was the term used.
Yeah, we didn't. They were releasing it right as we went on air here, so I didn't get to look into that.
And I didn't have a chance at all. So.
Mm-hmm. But he went all out signing executive orders.
Like mad. He just went ham.
He signed more executive orders so far than any other president in their first 100 days.
Well, he's a man of action, if you ask him, right? He's trying to get stuff done.
And I
Which
think,
is
like
admirable.
you say, like you touched on first off, he is a populist. He ultimately, it seems that he wants to adjust his policy based on what the people want, and that I think was one of his key appeals during the election. And for me,
For sure.
I didn't get to vote. We're Canadian, but had I gotten to vote, I would have voted Trump, and I
Never Hillary.
yeah. Again, that was the other thing. They provided two completely subpar candidates. I mean, one going through a federal investigation. Meanwhile, the other is Donald Trump.
The parallels to the French election.
Yeah. Well, it's often that way. I mean, lately in this world.
Well, I mean, if there really is a global cabal trying to rule the world, then the parallels would make sense, right? Use the same tactics around the world, sort of thing.
Yeah, even if there isn't some sort of mysterious global cabal, which I'm not even fully convinced there is.
Yeah, there's not evidence to support it, so it's hard to say 100%, right?
But if you just look at the way the world works right now, how the West structures the military-industrial complex, the banking, it's totally It's totally backwards, and that's what I focused on in my book without going into conspiracy theory. I have my own views on conspiracies. I mean, 9/11 and all that kind of stuff. But
everyone's got a view, right?
Yeah. But what I wanted to bring forth in the book and how I feel is just like look at totally transparent evidence of what's going on in the world. The amount of people that are dying due to starvation-related causes, that kind of thing. We have the ability on this planet to create a much better situation than we have now. So
we're really stuck in an old system that's not working for us anymore. We've advanced technologically, and our sociological advancement hasn't matched it. And that's our major problem, I feel. That's totally what we got to fix.
Absolutely. And probably not going to fix it the way Antifa wants to fix it.
Well, I mean, that's not fixing anything. It's breaking it all down, which is, of course, the whole chaos thing. So, the blind God laughs at everything, right? I mean, whether Antifa wins or loses, they don't care.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't associate with Antifa. Those people are friggin' idiots. They have no idea what they're talking about. They haven't read history books.
Hilarious exactly. The hilarious thing about it is they're so fascist themselves.
Well, I mean, they're half fascist. I mean, fascism is authoritarian nationalism, right?
Right.
But they're not nationalists.
Yeah, correct. They're anarchists.
But they're authoritarian for sure, showing up with all these weapons, covering their faces like a bunch of cowards.
They're so violent. And
They're not trying to talk to anybody. They're just trying to hurt people they disagree with, or they might disagree with,
and gang up on garbage cans and dumpsters.
Yeah, man, they hate those things. Just boot stomp garbages all the time. Just got a problem with it, man. Like they hate the garbage.
It's part of society, a garbage disposal system. They got to rebel against it.
This is authoritarian.
There's no government. No.
This garbage is impeding upon my friggin' rights to litter and be a disgusting, horrible person. Which I think accurately describe Antifa. Well, especially, like, I don't know. If anyone has been looking at, like, the Berkeley stuff as intensely as I have.
It's crazy. The recent battle. I think we talked about that on our opening as well.
I can't help but talk about it. It's
I
so close to my heart because I go out to protests. You know, I've been, like, when there was the Occupy Wall Street, we had, like, this cute little 50 to 80 people outside the bankers hall.
Right.
Jameson and I were there, met some other people that, you know, it was, we went to Occupy Wall Street. It wasn't really a big deal in Canada, Calgary here, but we did go out that day that everyone did across the world, the very first day. I went out for the Women's March. Yeah. Just this year.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. I've gone out to a lot of protests. The march against Monsanto. So I go to these things, and if these Antifa people start showing up at these events, there's a good chance I or someone I care about at these protests is getting hurt.
Well, again, it goes back to what we initially started talking about with free speech. Like, you can't come in with a dressed in a completely head to toe black,
like a coward
with, you know, and hit someone on the head with a steel bike U-lock because you don't want to hear their side of the story.
Yeah, I don't think that was a U-lock. I think it was like a bike chain and a sock. Okay. Yeah. What's that guy's name? Clement?
So it's Eric Clinton.
Eric Clinton. Okay, so this guy, I don't know if you guys heard about, if you know about Poll on 4chan, they're part of the whole Kekistan thing. They were Trump people. They were Trump voters.
Kekistan is another thing. Kek and Pepe that again warrants its whole episode. So
yeah, we're not going to get into that.
We should at least explain to those who have no idea what Kek is or Kekistan is.
How can you not at this point?
Some people
it's
might
everywhere.
Yeah.
Pepe's been declared a national hate symbol, even though like most of his uses aren't hate symbols.
Poorly drawn cartoon frog is a hate symbol now.
Well, hold on now. Poorly drawn cartoon. That's hate speech right there. Green Lives Matter. We won't accept your bigotry.
So, anyways. The idea of this Kek thing, we'll just briefly touch on it, and I'll let you go back to what you're talking about.
Dubs and trips.
So, the idea of Pepe, he's that cartoon frog that the internet meme community uses. 4chan Poll.
Well, they've appropriated most of its use. But it's not just used by them. It's an internet meme.
Well, he was created on 4chan, I believe.
No, he comes from a comic book strip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was marginally popular and something, and people just started using it for memes or whatever because it was simple to recreate and you know.
Interesting.
Pepe is very emotive. He conveys feelings in a very special way.
But anyways, he's just this cartoon, poorly drawn cartoon frog. No, who's used in memes a lot. The memes against or to support Trump
or
Le Pen,
against Hillary.
Very very politically motivated memes, and there was this crazy idea through a bunch of coincidences, I suppose you could say, that
coincidences through dubs and trips, which are double numbers, triple numbers showing up in your post number.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated
People
thing.
right now are like, what the fuck are they
What are dubs and trips? I thought dubs is like when you like, dap or like.
we'll do
dab.
an episode on it because
It's
it
very
warrants an
complicated.
episode. It's
Totally.
very interesting stuff. But that being said, he's just used to represent this ancient Egyptian god Kek, who was also a frog, I guess.
And a snake.
And
He was
a
a frog
snake.
in his male form, a snake in his
Mhm.
female form.
Mm-hmm. And they
He was-
believe that Pepe, through these memes, is sort of
Channeling
Kek, yes. And through that, a whole sort of subculture. You see it in these protests. People are waving around Pepe flags, Green Lives Matter, with a frog on
Kekistani
it.
flags.
Yeah,
There's
Kekistani
literally a
flags,
Kekistani
so
flag now.
It's
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So it's a thing, and we're gonna talk about it in future episodes.
Yeah, do a better job of explaining it than that. That was a
Yeah.
real rough shot.
That was a very bad. We bombed that one. We were doing really good so far. This has been a good podcast, eh?
Do you think so?
I think so.
Okay, well, it takes a little bit of chaos to ruin a good thing.
Yeah. So that being said, as on that little poorly executed segue, we'll go back to you were talking about Eric Clanton. And,
Yeah, and Antifa.
yeah.
So poll where all of this Keck stuff came from, essentially, 4chan. Slash poll is one of their threads on 4chan. They're anti-Antifa, essentially. They are on the side of free speech. They're trolls. They have to be on the side of free speech or they don't exist. They disappear in a puff of logic.
Mhm.
But yeah, so they're on the freedom of speech side, and obviously that was opposed to the Antifa crew at the Battle of Berkeley, the fourth Battle of Berkeley, or whatever it is. So they've face imaged people in the crowd, especially some of the more flagrant abusers of power, essentially, and anonymity. And this Clement guy, he's been shown hitting a guy over the head who didn't attack anybody with apparently a bike lock and a sock, which is what that previous comment was about. And the guy's like bleeding from the head afterwards, right? Completely unprovoked, but he's just trying to stand
Yeah,
there,
it's
talk to
crazy.
people. And this coward in a mask hits him over the head. And this guy, if anyone does the research, he's a professor. He's a high school professor teaching ethics, which is horrifying. Horrifying. What the hell? This guy's supposed to be teaching ethics and he's a member of Antifa and he's a professor? This is
Yeah, it's
horrible. Horrible news. This drains my faith in post-secondary institutes if they let these sort of slack-jawed yokels run their crap. That's absolutely depressing. And who's the other professor that's been identified?
So the other professor was
Yvette
Yvette Falarka or Falarsa. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Yvette, anyways.
Yvette.
But she's been pictured in and around him, and she is a University of Berkeley professor, isn't she? Like the other guy's a high school at Berkeley professor. I think she's actually at the university. And she's been interviewed a whole bunch of times and very public, I believe.
Mm.
And another one of these members of Antifa and organizes these hate marches.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to talk directly about these people because they're trying to be anonymous. And in order to destroy them, we take away their anonymity and they have to stand in the light of truth.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
their
be
tactics
accountable.
are totally crazy. So I don't know as much on Antifa as I know you do, but I've definitely seen the coverage, watched the battles. I see what they do at protests. I mean, it's nuts. It's crazy that, especially, I mean, in that last battle of Berkeley, like the police were just standing down. They were given orders to stand down and not intervene. Meanwhile, these.
Did you hear the conspiracy behind that?
No, I did not.
The conspiracy behind that is that the mayor of Berkeley is actually an Antifa sympathizer, if
Oh,
not
yeah.
member.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if
Yeah, I
he came
didn't
out to
hear that.
Berkeley to march in
Mhm.
a mask like some kind of coward, but
Yeah.
apparently he sympathizes with these cowards. So that's why the chief of police gave that order to stand down.
Mm.
Apparently,
Hmm.
which
Interesting.
is horrifying. Again, that's absolutely strips your faith in the system.
Well, is Antifa directly funded by Soros?
That's the rumor.
The rumor. Okay.
That's a conspiracy. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Soros has all that Nazi gold locked up from,
Yeah.
giving all of his Jew friends up in the World War.
Mm.
Because he's a absolute parasite of a human being, George Soros. I don't mind saying that. Fuck that guy. He's up to some shady stuff, and I think he needs to stand for war crimes, among other things.
Mm.
So that's my opinion, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Do your own research, make your own opinions. I think you'll agree with me if you do some research on him. It's a horrible piece of crap. But anyways, especially if he's like, behind Antifa. And then the other thing about that, the Antifa thing, is that, oh crap, I lost it. It disappeared on me. I had a point to make. There it goes. Where is mine?
I totally fucked up and I forgot to mark the time we started.
Mother.
I think we're at about 50 minutes here.
Do we have anything else on the list to cover for today, or?
I don't think so. I think we did a good job this time. We touched on our issues. We had a good talk.
Again, blew a tire at the end there, but I guess right around 40 minutes is about our threshold for sanity, and then we start to go off the wall.
We'll only get better from here, and I'm at least for
striving.
me, I'm super excited to get some guests on the show eventually via Skype and so forth.
Once we get our situation figured out, because again, new camera today.
Yeah, we're gonna pump out a few more episodes here, but
we're just gonna try to find our pace, pacing, our stride, how we want to do it. We're gonna iron out some details for you and keep coming at you.
I think we did a good one.
I was gonna fist bump him, but then I fisted. Mad daps, yo. Mad daps.